Hey, good evening, everyone. Darren Marcus here. I am back with my new show. I'm excited to be back in the studio. And first question is, what is Real Fit? I'm getting asked that question constantly. I've been posting it about it quite a bit lately. Getting ready to launch this here. I'm going to be doing an event on April 8th. But to tell you a little bit about what Real Fit is, it is a group coaching program that is going to combine the principles of fitness and how I've used that over the years in my real estate career, in my business career, et cetera. So we are launching a new show. People said to me, Darren, well, why are you going to change the name, man? Like, you've already started to create this following. And I thought about it a little bit, and then I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. It's my show. I'll do what I want to do. So I changed the name. We're coming out with a new name. We're gonna still continue to bring you great stories from entrepreneurs about how they have succeeded and overcome challenges. But part of this is going to be including people in the fitness industry, about how they've been able to overcome adversity through fitness and using that in their business. And so it's going to be really great. I think some of the guests that I've got coming up over the next few weeks and few months, I think are going to bring a lot of great content for you. It's going to bring you some real life examples of what you can do in the fitness area and how that'll apply to the real life. And so what I want to do is talk to you a little bit first and tell you a story, and how this all ties into where I'm at today. So going back to, I'm going to go way back to 1991. I actually was 15 years old, started in bodybuilding for the first time. I had been lifting weights and getting a lot of great results and feeling really good. And so a guy approached me in the gym and said, hey man, have you ever thought about competing in a bodybuilding show? And I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, I would do that. And if anybody who knew me at that time knew that, I was incredibly shy, never talked to anybody in school. And so the last thing that anybody would have ever imagined that I was doing was getting up in front of thousands of people in my bikini underwear, and posing in front of all these people. So saying that now, think back, kind of sounds weird. But anyway, so 15 years old, I get invited to come do my first show. It's kind of funny. I always tell people the story. My very first bodybuilding show, my mom actually drove me to the venue, dropped me off. I went in and competed. That was my first experience. It was my first lesson in life of really learning what failure and losing was. I at that time, I was 15 years old, like I'd mentioned. In school, I was the big dude, right? Like everybody come up, holy crap, man, how much do you bench? How much do you lift? Blah, 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 all of those things. And everybody just knew me as Darren the bodybuilder. And so I walk into this show and everybody's like, oh, you're going to win. You're going to win. You look great. I walk into this show thinking I'm going to completely dominate. I'm going to completely crush the competition. And what I forgot and what I failed to realize is that the guys that I would be competing with, and I say guys because they were 19 years old compared to me at 15. And any guy knows that there's a drastic difference between who you are when you're 15 and who you are when you're 19. So anyway, came in, got my ass handed to me, placed fifth out of 6 guys. And it was really a wake up call for me that number one, don't underestimate the competition. I would say is the number one thing, is that never underestimate the competition. And so that was one of my first great learning lessons in life, that years later would obviously apply to business. But, I went into that show. When I left that show that day, I was so disappointed in myself, not anybody else, but disappointed in myself that, again, I underestimated who was going to be there and what was going to happen. And literally that next morning I woke up, went to the gym and started training, and with the path of knowing that next year I'm winning. No doubt I'm going to win my show next year, and I'm going to train like crazy. I'm going to be insane. And anybody who knows me from that time when I was competing knows that I was absolutely insane. Nothing stopped me. Once I had set my mind on what I was going to achieve, I would get up. At that time, I was going to high school. I would get up at 3:15 in the morning. I would go to the gym. I would do my workout. And one of the biggest questions people always ask me is, Darren, well, why did you wake up so early? Like, why did you need to wake up so early? And my belief at that time was that I want to be able to know in my head that I'm beating my competition, right? And so I knew that no other 16-year-old out there was waking up at 3:15 in the morning and going to the gym. And so my belief was I'm waking up before them. I'm going to be better. I'm going to beat them. And that's exactly what I did. So I went on to train and compete, and the everything that I learned through bodybuilding, years later, I started to realize how it translated to business. And I'll share some of that with you here shortly. But, everything from time management, time blocking, planning my meals, getting to bed on time, fighting through days that were definitely, I didn't feel good. I didn't want to go to the gym, but I also didn't want to lose. And so I would go to the gym for 2 hours in the morning. I'd go to the gym for 2 hours in the evening. And at that time, I was waking up at 3:15 a.m., go to the gym, come home, eat my breakfast, get ready for school, go to school. My teachers were so supportive of what I was doing. They would actually let me out of class to go eat every 2 hours if I was in the middle of class. And any of my friends who knew me knew at the time that if they were riding around with me in my car and I had to eat at 10 a.m., we're pulling over. I'm grabbing my food out of the cooler in the back, and I'm going to eat because I've got to eat at 10 o'clock, and I've got to eat at 12 o'clock, and I've got to eat at 2 o'clock. And my discipline at that time was just unreal. I think back to it now. There was nothing that would get in my way. It didn't matter if my car broke down, whatever it was. I would walk to the gym on the weekends before I could even drive. I would walk from Spring Valley, if anybody lives in Vegas knows, approximately Flamingo and Rainbow, and I would walk to Valley View and Arville on Saturdays and Sundays to make it to the gym, which was literally about an hour to hour and a half walk. And I didn't mind. I enjoyed it. So I figured I'll get my cardio in. I'll walk to the gym. I'll train. And so, my first show was the Las Vegas Classic that I competed in at 16 years old. I should say my second show. Dieted for that show for 20 weeks. Had everything planned out over a 20-week period, meaning that I knew that 12 weeks from now, I could tell you at 10 a.m. exactly what I was going to eat and how much I was going to eat. So really a lot of planning. And the time blocking, this is where I first learned time blocking, was that I actually time blocked my entire day. I knew from what time I was going to train, what time I was eating, what time I was showering, what time I was going to the gym. All of that stuff was time blocked all throughout the day. And so I'd really started to set myself up for, again, what I was going to use in the future. So I went through, I competed. That was my first show. I win. Now I'm just ecstatic. Now I go completely insane because I won the show. Now I'm like, holy crap, man, I got to get out there. I got to do this again. I'm going to go for the Nevada. And so I start training for the Nevada. And, as anybody knows who's somewhat familiar with bodybuilding, that as you start to elevate and get further along as you're competing, you start realizing that, hey, in order for me to be able to compete with these guys that are out here, I'm going to have to start taking some stuff. And so I started with a couple different things back then. It was clenbuterol. That was mostly just to burn body fat. And come around second year, same thing, 20 weeks of dieting. I would blow up in the off season. I'd blow up to 230 pounds. I'd come down in the preseason or pre-contest. For the Nevada, I got down to 176 pounds. I was ready to come in and compete at 184. And then, like most bodybuilders, I got into this situation where I'm like, hey, man, more is better, right? And one thing you'll learn about bodybuilders and people in the fitness industry, more is better. So if 1 was good, 3 was better, and 6 was even greater. So I would make sure that whatever I was doing, I was taking ephedrine and all this different stuff. So anyway, leading up to the show, I start thinking, man, I want to be ripped. I want to be completely shredded. I want, striated glutes and veins in my back. And I just want to kick ass because this year I'm also going to compete at 17 years old. I'm going to compete against the men, and I'm going to compete in the middleweight division. And so as I got closer to the show, I started inquiring with friends and people that I know from the gym. Hey, does anybody have diuretics? I need diuretics so that I can shred this water and get into great shape. And so I got some diuretics, and I failed to tell the different people that I got them from that I already had diuretics, different types, and probably would have known if I would have shared this with them that I shouldn't be mixing any of those. And so as I get closer to the show, I'm now about 3 days out from the contest. I'm roughly about 185 pounds, completely striated, just ripped, ready to go. And I'm like, okay, man, I got it. This is where you become a little bit crazy in the bodybuilding world, is because now you start to look in the mirror And like somebody with an eating disorder, what you see in the mirror is different from what you actually are. And so I looked in the mirror, and even though I had veins all through my legs and through my chest and my butt and everywhere else, I looked in the mirror and I'm like, man, I'm not shredded enough. I need to get a little bit more off. So I start popping these diuretics. I'm taking all kinds of different diuretics, Diazide and Lasix and hydroxychloroquine, I think is what it was called. And so I'm popping all of these. I'm cutting out my water 3 days prior. And so morning, day before the show, I wake up and all of a sudden I start looking flat, right? All because I'm not realizing at the time, and I didn't learn that as you suck that water out of the body, it comes out of the muscle and it depletes the muscle, and you can't hold carbs as you're trying to carb up. And so you start to flatten out. All of a sudden now I'm freaking out. I'm like, holy shit, man, I'm 175 pounds and I look like shit. And so wake up Saturday morning. And so when I saw that, my first thought was, oh, you know what? I need to take more diuretics. So I'm going to take more Lasix and I'm going to take more Diazide. So I start taking more and more and more. And what's incredible about that time and the level of focus you get as a bodybuilder or somebody in the fitness industry is that no matter what's going on around you, you just become so hyper focused on what you're trying to accomplish that you ignore all the red flags. And about 6 months prior to me doing this contest, there was a bodybuilder at that time, very famous, Mohammed Benaziza. This dude was just fucking shredded, man. Like, I mean, unbelievable. He died. And he died because he basically overdosed on Lasix. The medical staff, and I believe it was in Poland at the time where he was competing, their first thought was give him potassium, which actually did the opposite effect and stopped his heart. But anyway, so I was taking the same stuff. And so I get up that morning, I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, shit, man, I don't look great. I got to pop another diuretic. I keep taking these diuretics. I eat breakfast, and I can't pee. I'm like, okay, now there's a problem because now I'm not even peeing. So I get to the show and I compete. I signed up for both the teenage division and the men's division. I go out, I compete in the teenage division. I get done with my posing routine. I come off. Now I'm starting to feel like a little like weird. I'm like nauseous, not feeling good. I get up, I go out, I compete with the men. At the time, again, I was 17 years old. I'm competing with guys that are 35, 40 years old. They've been doing bodybuilding for 20 years. And, you know, I want to get out there. I want to win. I come off the stage, and as I'm coming off the stage, the first thing I think of, or the first thing I feel is I'm like, oh, man, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm not feeling good. This isn't good. So I call my mom. I said, hey, can you come down and pick me up? I don't think I can drive. Not feeling well. Comes down, picks me up, and I get in the car, and as I'm laying there, you can hear my kidneys gurgling, actually like gurgling. And I'm like, oh, that's not a good sound. My mom can hear it. I've got people, you know, my grandma, I believe at the time, was in the back. And all I can think of is like, holy crap, man, like this guy died taking the same stuff, but I'm 17 years old. I don't want to tell my parents that I was taking this stuff. And what do I do? So I actually call a buddy of mine, and I'm like, as I get to the house, I'm now getting to the point where I can barely walk. The muscles were just like not functioning. I get into my house, and with about 5 minutes of sitting in my bed, all of a sudden I could rush to the bathroom, literally crawling down the hall, and I'm projectile puking in the bathroom. Literally nothing is coming up except for just bile and all this gross shit. And so anyway, I go through this process, and I'm throwing up, and I'm starting to get the shivers, and I'm shaking. And I remember in this article that I'd read about Mohammed Benaziza that prior to him dying, he was getting the chills and shaking and anything. So now I'm like, oh shit, man, like what have I gotten myself into? So luckily I call a friend who had a lot of experience, had been competing for years. A buddy of mine, Phil Trischler, I don't even know, if he's still living here in Las Vegas, but thankfully for this guy, he told me right away, he's like, Darren, you need to get over, get some Pedialyte, start sipping on that, drink it. Anyway, I get back to the so I'm like, at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm now able to get up. I'm now able to walk. I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I'm like, I'm going to go back to the contest. And this is, again, how nuts I am. I probably should have gone to the ER and not back to competing. But I'm like, hey, man, I just had, I've trained so hard over the past 20 weeks. There is no way I'm going to let up on this. And I'm going to get back there and compete. So I get back. I'm so weak at the point. I'm literally sitting out in front of the auditorium, and the promoter comes out. I tell him what's going on. He's like, Darren, you know what? You've won the teenage. You've placed really well in the men's. Just come back and go through the motions. So I do. I go in. I go through all the motions, and luckily, I ended up surviving. I won the contest. I placed 5th in the men's, and anyway, so it really was not even and what's crazy at the time, it wasn't even a wake up call for me. My immediate sights were, okay, now I've qualified for the teenage nationals, and now I can go compete at the teenage nationals, and I can potentially become a pro and become a pro bodybuilder. And that was my passion. I worked at a fitness store here, or a health food store. It was called Max Muscle. Everybody I was around was bodybuilders, or all these dudes that were jacked, 230, 250 pounds, squatting 500. These are the guys that I was training with at 16 and 17 years old. And I'm like, man, this is what I want to be. I want to be a professional bodybuilder. And thankfully, at the time, there was a gentleman by the name of Troy Zucolato. He's still around, very highly successful. He was Mr. Universe and all this stuff. And so he was friends with the owner of the store, and he comes in one day and he's talking to me, and he's like, hey man, I heard you did well, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm going to do the nationals and I can't wait. And I'm on juice now. And I started juicing. I was taking an Anadrol a day, 5D-ball a day, 500 milligrams of test every 4 days. And I was doing this at 18 years old. Everybody prior to that thought I had been juicing. And then they realized once I started taking it that, holy shit, okay, dude's on stuff now. And just to give you an example, I went from benching 315 pounds for 6 reps to 315 pounds for 18 reps, like it was nothing. I gained 42 pounds over a very short period of time. I was at I think I was like 192. I got up to 238 pounds within a matter of 4 weeks. And man, I was feeling good. I'm like, dude, I'm going to crush it. There's no other teenage bodybuilder competing at this weight. And I'm going to just go in and completely destroy these guys. And I'm going to do the men's and everything else. And I was just ready to go. It's die hard. And luckily, Troy comes to me one day in the store and he's like, dude, what are you doing, man? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, are you going to do the nationals? I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I want to turn pro. And he's like, Darren, man, you sure about this? And I go, yeah, well, now I'm starting to get like a little like, what, man, you don't think I'm good enough or what? And he's like, no, dude, you look phenomenal. Like, I think you'll do really well. But is bodybuilding really what you want to do? And I'm like, well, yeah, why? And he's like, let me tell you about the life of bodybuilders. He's like, dude, the majority of them are sleeping on people's couches. They're spending $90,000 a year on growth hormone and steroids, and they're broke. These guys are broke. They are the top athletes in the world in their field, and they're absolutely broke. He's like, dude, if I could give you any suggestion, and this still today resonates with me, and thank God I met this guy and he shared this with me. It's actually a cool story. A couple of years ago, I got to see him again, and I told him this whole story. He says, hey man, take the same drive, dedication, and determination and discipline that you are using in bodybuilding and apply that in the business world. And that's what Troy himself had done. Troy was highly successful, owned tons of car washes. Now I believe he owns medical facilities and all this different stuff. But he's like, dude, take that same drive and dedication and everything else. He's like, because very few people have that level of dedication and discipline and all of that. And he goes, take that and apply it to business and you'll be unstoppable. And I was like, okay. So I actually listened, because he's like, bro, you got pretty much two places you're going to end up as a bodybuilder. You're going to either end up broke or dead. That's pretty much the two options that you have. And unless you're in the top 3 in the world, and it's not like it is today where they have supplement companies and they can have, online training and all that type of stuff. This was the time when they didn't have all that stuff. And so he's like, dude, it's not the path to go. So anyway, thankfully I listened to him. I pulled myself out of bodybuilding. Unfortunately, I took that same discipline and drive and focus and I applied it to partying for a decade. And I was a really good partier. But anyway, so where that leads me into what what I want to talk about is that so many people in the fitness world, as they get to the end of their career, I mean, there's even stories out there right now about, football players and all this different stuff where when they retire, they just kind of don't know where to go with it. And that's where I felt like, even though I had a very short stint in competing in bodybuilding, I was very intense in it. And it was my entire life for that entire time. And so all of a sudden I didn't know what to do with myself except for just go out and drink, party, have fun. And because I wasn't doing that while I was in high school and competing. And so now I went out and I'm partying and all this stuff. But through the years, as I was always an entrepreneur, and through the years, as I would start different businesses, I would realize, oh, wow, man, I'm using some of the same principles that I use in bodybuilding and some of the same skills and different things. I'm now using those things in my everyday work life. Everything from time blocking to visualization. I share with people all the time. I used to visualize quite a bit where I would literally lay in my bed for an hour before I'd go to train, and I would walk myself through competing and being on stage and actually hearing the crowd call my name, hearing the announcer call out my name as first place, smelling what it will smell like there, hearing what it would feel like, the lights, and actually feeling myself touching that trophy. I would visualize that on a daily basis. I would visualize myself going into the gym and doing, 500-pound squat for 5 reps or 315-pound bench press. That was where I was at, and that's what I was using. And so I started to regain and reuse those skills again, and realizing, hey, if I could, like Troy said 15 years ago, if I could start to take this and apply this to my business life, where would that take me? And so little by little, as I went through my rough years, I would always fall back on fitness. And it was the one thing that always made me feel good. And it was the one thing that gave me confidence. And it was the one thing that brought me out of my shell. And so I always had this love for fitness that was always there. And so I would always kind of gravitate back to that and move back to it. And so through the years, I've begun to pull back some of those things that I used at a young age that for me was a success for where I was at. I was a chubby kid that would drink a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper and eat a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. All of a sudden to this kid who had incredibly shredded abs and ripped back and, was a complete freak. And so I started to pull back in some of those things. And through the years, as I've now started to get into my real estate career, it is so incredibly crazy to me how much of the things that I used in my fitness life as a competitive bodybuilder that I now use to every day in my real estate career and helping me build my business. And again, it goes back to, I get up early. Fitness is a daily task that is part of my business routine. So it's not even that it's like, hey, I'm just getting up because I want to get in better shape. I'm getting up because I want to be better, right? So I get up at 3:50 in the morning. I go for my run. I do my workout. I drink my smoothie. I'm planning my day. I'm ready for the day. So when I come back to the house at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and I'm ready to start my day, I'm already tuned up. I'm 110 miles an hour. I'm ready to get out there and conquer the world. And it's interesting. My wife and I were just not long ago, we were driving in Southern California, and we had attended a mastermind with Bedros Keuilian and Tony Stephan. And when I first attended the first mastermind with Bedros and Wes Watson, the first thing that came up on the screen was fitness is an essential part of success. And or you'll hear them say that fitness is the gateway drug to success. And I truly believe that, because having that in my life, that fitness component or that, fitness mindset, and always going back to that, because I knew it was the one thing that made me feel good. And now applying that to my business life, I've really realized that, wow, this is a part of it. And so my wife and I were driving, and I said to her, I said, God, have you ever realized like how much business is like fitness, like working out or like being an athlete? I'm like, there's going to be days that you show up to the gym that you fail, right? You go for that 315-pound bench for the first time and you want to set that PR and you fail. It doesn't mean that you put the weights up, grab your stuff and walk out of the gym and never come back again. No, you put it back, you lower the weight a little bit, you try it again, maybe you only hit 305. Great. You leave. 2 weeks later, you come back in. Every week you keep coming back in. You're following your training program and you're working your way back up. All of a sudden you hit that 315, right? And now you're like, oh man, now I need 355. I need 375. I need 405, right? And you start to overcome those failures. And that's really what I think is so great with fitness is that, fitness should definitely be a part of any business organization. It should be a part of your daily life for that reason, because it's going to help teach you. And this is why I think it's even great that kids are in sports, is because it's going to teach you to overcome losses, and that it's going to teach you that just because you lost today doesn't mean that you give up. You come back and you try it again. And, so I shared with my wife, I'm like, you know what, you may fail, but you get back in there. And I said, and the first time you lift that 315, it's super heavy. Or the first time you lift 135, their first day in the gym, it's super heavy. And then you get 5 years down the road and you're warming up with 135 and you think back and you're like, holy shit, man, that used to be heavy for me. Now 315 is light. And now I can do 405. And the reason I use those as examples is because it's the same in business, right? Like you start out and you're like, man, if I could just do 10 million this year in sales, 10 million as a real estate agent, that puts me in the top, probably either 250 to 500. I could be a top agent just doing 10 million. And then you do 10 and you think, and it seems so unfathomable when you start out, right? It seems like, holy shit, man, how am I going to get to 10 million? Like I can barely get to 1 million. And then next thing you know, you get to 10 million and your goal is 20 million. And then you get up to 20 million and you look back and you're like, holy shit, 10 million, that was easy. Like it never seems hard anymore, right? And so that's where I relate it to fitness, is that same thing. Like as you grow and you're improving your fitness, right? What once was hard now becomes a lot easier. And how do you get there? How do you become more fit? How do you become stronger? How do you do that? All through the principles that you use in fitness, through discipline, focus, consistency. All of those things are the same things that apply in business that help you get to the point where you want to be and achieving your goals. And, and I still had that bodybuilder mentality. And so, for me, if I get to, 20 million in sales, now I want 50 million. I get to 50 million in sales, I want 100 million. I get to 100 million in sales and so on. Now, where I'm going with this is that for me, that mentality still kicks in. And, I think using that on a daily basis has really helped me. And now incorporating fitness back into my daily business program is really helping me now move forward. But the biggest thing is it goes back to, I launched the Real Fit program. I shared a template with my team. It was a task list of daily things that they need to do. It incorporates and integrates fitness in with your daily task as a real estate agent. And this can apply to business as well, but the things that you need to do. And the first response was, especially from some of the women, like, we're not going to be weighing in. We're not going to be doing body fat testing, are we? Like, I don't want to get up in front of people. And I said, guys, this has nothing to do with the physical aspect of it. Yes, when you look better, you're going to feel better. People treat you differently. Again, this is why I am still such a fan of fitness. As I mentioned that, when I was young, I was very shy. And so what happened is, as I was getting bigger and 238 pounds, well, everybody comes up and talks to you. They're like, holy shit, dude, you're a freak. Like, what do you do? And you start talking, and it pulls you out of your shell. And so for me, fitness is not just about the physical aspect anymore. It's about the mental side and how I feel emotionally, and waking up in the morning and training and getting that hard thing out of the way first thing in the morning that we most of us don't want to do. And even when you enjoy working out, there's definitely days you don't want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and run. Like this morning, we were running literally through hell. It was helling out. It was probably in the low 30s. It's blasting us in the face. And I told my training partner, I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I love it. I love like running. We're literally running through hell right now. And it felt so good, instead of just like giving up and saying, oh, let's go get the car and let's get back. No, we just ran through it. And when we were done, we felt so accomplished. And I can tell you that your day becomes so much better when you start it that way. And so I am such a big advocate on applying fitness and bringing it into your everyday work life. It's going to make you feel better. When you feel better, you treat people better. You're going to be, to me, it makes you a high performer, meaning that I'm going to be on point. When my clients call me at 8 o'clock, I've already been up for 4 hours. I've had 300 milligrams of caffeine. I'm completely wired and I'm ready to go, and all cylinders are firing versus, hey, my phone's starting to blow up. It's 8 o'clock, at 8:30. Now you're becoming reactive. And it goes back to one of the things that I preach constantly to the agents on my team is be proactive. Be proactive. Be ahead of it. Don't wait for it to come to you and react. And that's what I think it happens in most situations when people are questioning themselves in business. Why can't I get ahead, man? Why can't I get ahead? Well, when you're waking up at 8:30 in the morning and you're responding and reacting to the calls and stuff that have already come in, it immediately puts you in a stressful situation, right? You wake up, you don't eat your breakfast. Now you're running out the door because the calls are going. You're stressed out. You don't feel good. And so how does anyone in that physical state expect that they can perform at a high level in the business world? You can't. But if you walk out and you're completely optimized and your brain is functioning, you've listened to I usually listen to a book or something when I'm running. I come back, I'll read a chapter or so. I get myself in the right mind place. I still, to this day, part of my routine in the morning, I get up at 3:45 to 3:50. I go for my 3-mile run. I do my workout. I come back. I meditate for 15 minutes. And part of that meditation is visualization. I'm laying there and visualizing those things that I'm looking to accomplish over the next week, the next year. I'm seeing myself in those roles. I'm feeling myself in those roles. I'm feeling the excitement, the stress. I'm relating to all of it, and I'm walking myself through it to prepare myself for what I'm going to accomplish. And so that becomes part of my morning routine. That is not an option anymore. It is part of, it's no different than making an appointment with a client. I'm making the appointment with myself first thing, take care of myself, and now the rest of the day, I'm ready to go and take care of people. And so, again, I'm going to relate it to bodybuilding, but if you're starting out in real estate or in any business, and you're at that point where you're like, holy crap, man, what am I doing? This is completely hell. I'm stressed out. I don't think I'm going to make it. Start, if you don't have that fitness routine in your daily plan now, start incorporating that into your daily plan. And by the way, I don't know if anybody is aware, but you can post questions if you're watching us live. I forgot to mention that at the very beginning. I jumped back into this podcast this week. Not a lot of planning, but we are going to start coming back at 6 o'clock at night on Thursdays. We're going to be live on YouTube and Facebook and in the Facebook group. But anyway, back to what I was talking about with the failures. Start getting up and incorporating that into your daily mix. Is even if it's just getting up for 15 minutes in the morning and walking and getting your body active and starting to feel better. What's going to happen? And this is when I used to own a health food store. And when I would do body fat and diet consultation for people, the first thing that I would say to them is, I'd say, look, what's your daily routine? Have you ever worked out? Have you ever eaten 6 meals a day? Oh no, but I'm ready. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours and I'm going to eat 6 meals a day. And I'm like, but you've never done this, right? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, then don't start there. And they would even get a little bit disappointed. I'm like, you need to start at doing, anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes a day. Just go in the gym, walk for 15 minutes, and just start to build the habit, right? Because you've got to break your bad habits. You've got to get yourself back out there and get in the gym and just get yourself literally in the habit of going to the gym, parking, walking inside for 15 to 20 minutes, get on the treadmill, walk, and leave. And they're like, well, I don't understand. Like, how am I getting any results from that? And I'm like, it's not about the short-term results. It's about the long-term results. We want to build the discipline. We want to build the consistency for you and get yourself in that new habit. And so I would always recommend that from the beginning is, hey, start with that 15 minutes a day. I go, and what's going to happen is as you start to feel a little better, you're going to say, oh, I want to bump it up to 30 minutes. I want to bump it up to 45 minutes. I'm going to throw some weights in. And now you will start to build yourself up to that. Next thing you know, you go to eat somewhere and you're like, you start making better choices. Why? Because now you're feeling better. And you know that you've put all this hard work in to what you're doing to make yourself physically better and mentally better, that now you're going to make better choices in eating. And it's a natural progression that as you get going. And then once you've got that good rhythm down and you've got that good discipline down and you've been doing it consistently for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, now start to tighten up your plan. Now start to get yourself to the point where, okay, now I could get myself on a six meal a day plan because I've been disciplined. I've been eating a solid 3 meals. I'm consistent with the time that I eat those. I've been going to the gym, same time every day. I'm going to ramp up my program, and I'm going to really start to go after it now. And again, that goes back to the same thing within business. I think too many people come out of, especially in real estate, people come out of the shoot and they're just like, oh man, I'm going to dominate this year. I'm going to go out and kick ass. And all of a sudden what happens is they don't get the response that they were looking for immediately, or they don't achieve the goal that they're looking for immediately. And all of a sudden they burn themselves out. And I know this. I started in, I share with a lot of people. They're like, well, it's been so easy for you because you had all these connections and stuff like that, or you grew up here. And I'm like, dude, first of all, let me tell you something. I got my real estate license in 2008. I had a prior business. I had a distribution company. We serviced over 350 stores. And that business failed for several reasons. One of them is that because I was partying like a fucking idiot all the time, and I would sleep 2 or 3 hours a night because I was out partying until 5 a.m. and then I had to get up and go make deliveries. Sometimes I'd only sleep an hour, and just wasn't in the right mindset. I was able to go out and get the sales and still able to overcome things. But I look back and I know what my problem was, and so all of a sudden I lose my business in 2008, and I'm like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? And the one thing I did is that I swore I would never do is I went and bartended. And a year into bartending, I'm like, well, I got to do something different. I can't do this the rest of my life. And so I'm going to go get my real estate license. And so I went and got my real estate license, and everybody's like, dude, you're crazy. You're getting your license in 2008. But you know what? It was kind of the same thing where I'm like, I want to start with the hardest thing. I want to start in a market that's tough. I know it's going to take some time, and it's going to be really, really difficult to be able to survive this, but I'm going to power through it. Like, I've been an entrepreneur for years. I've been able to overcome a lot of difficult and challenging times. And so now I'm going to power through that. And I'm going to continue to just keep working forward and progressing. And I'm going to visualize and see myself where I'm going. And one of the big things that helped in that was, and I share with agents now, because, I hear agents say that, oh, this is like 2008. First of all, let me clarify. This is nothing like 2008 because we had 41,000 homes on the property and nobody to buy them. I mean, on the market and nobody to buy them. And it's a lot different now. Now we've got like 5,000 homes and still buyers out there. So it's a more balanced market now. But if you're new to real estate and you started 2 years ago or 18 months ago, right, you would have started in this high and you would have felt really great about what you're doing. And you got this false perception that, wow, I'm a really great salesperson because look at all these deals that I'm getting. And then all of a sudden one day everything stopped. And now you're starting to question, hey, what am I doing, man? Is this the right business for me? Should I be in real estate? And trust me, we all question that. And we've all been there. I've questioned it tons of times when I was, just starting out, and even through the years as I left the Ivan Group and I started my own team. And then as I left the brokerage that I was at and started my own brokerage, there's always those points where you start to question yourself and doubt yourself. And so, the number one thing is getting yourself a plan together in this time, just like you would with a fitness plan. And this is what I tell all the agents is that, the time management is really an important part of being successful in this. When I first started, I was only able to do real estate 8 hours a week. And this is where I do differ with a lot of brokers, because a lot of brokers will tell you, oh, quit your job, go out there, go full time. The problem with that is that now it puts you in a situation where financially you're strapped. And in my opinion, I think agents start to make bad decisions when that happens, right? It's very easy to look the other way when you need this deal to close because you need to pay rent next month. And so I do not advise that. I advise that if you're good with your time and you can structure your time right, make sure that for at least the first year to 2 years, you've got continual income coming in or some source of income coming in that you can start to build your business. And I did it. The first couple of years, I literally had 8 hours a week that I could do real estate. I blocked out Tuesday mornings from 9 to 1, and I blocked out Thursday afternoon, or Thursdays the same way. And Tuesdays were for my sales meetings that the office had. I wanted to make sure that I was there and that I was learning and hearing what was going on. And then the second part of that week was doing an open house, and I would do all my calls and stuff during that time. And again, I was using the things that I learned in bodybuilding by time management and really compressing my time down. There was no time to mess around because I was still working 2 other jobs at that point. And I started to build that business. Part of what helped me in succeeding and keeping me to stick to what I was doing was what a lot of us hear, proximity of power, right? I mean, proximity is power. So the people that you surround yourself with are the people who are going to help you either succeed or they're going to help you fail. And I was very fortunate in the fact that I was able to start with one of the greatest teams out there, the Shapiro and Scheer Group, Florence Shapiro and Ivan Scheer. And I put myself around all these great success-minded people who are highly successful. And for years, every year I wanted to give up. I wanted to quit. I don't have the money for my license. I don't have the money for this. And luckily, being around those people, they kept me involved. Just like when I was competing in bodybuilding, I wanted to give up. There was times when I was around bigger guys and they're like, dude, I don't want to hear that come out of your fucking mouth. Like, shut up. Like you're going to keep competing. You're good. You're going to, and it was, they kept pushing me and motivating me. And it's the same thing. So you want to make sure that you're putting yourself around those people who are going to help you build your business and they have the same visions and goals. Don't put yourself around the people that are doubters. Don't put yourself around the people who question and say, hey, you know what? You should probably go find a real job. Because I will tell you, there's been so many times in my career where people have come to me, family members, friends, people that cared about me and said, Darren, you know, man, I know you're an entrepreneur and I know you're really trying to make this work, but you know, you're in your 30s now and it might be time that you just go find a real job and get a job with insurance and a job with a nice pension and do it that way and have some nice security. And to me, I've never felt that working for somebody is secure because they can fire me tomorrow, right? But controlling my own destiny, if I'm going to fail, I want to fail because of myself, not because of someone else. And I think that's what led me into bodybuilding at a young age and why I didn't want to compete or I didn't want to play football and I didn't want to wrestle and do all the things that everybody else wanted me to do. I'm like, nope, I'm going to do bodybuilding. I'm in my own world. I compete with myself. And if I lose, it's my problem, not anybody else's. I can't blame the quarterback. I can't blame the coach. I can't blame anybody else. It's my fault. And I've always liked taking that self-responsibility. And so as I was, you know, growing my business in those early years, 2008 through 2013, up until the time when I started to work at Askaya, you know, it was really important to be around those people. And sometimes I would get pulled in different directions and I would be around people that were a little bit more negative and it would start to pull me back. And then fortunately, I would still put myself in with those people that were highly successful and they would start to pull me back out of that. And I would eventually start to move forward and I would start to get rid of those people, not get rid of them in a negative way. You know, I hear people say, oh, get rid of your friends that are negative. You know, sometimes when you've grown up with these people since you're young, it's really hard to cut them out. But what you do is you learn to separate yourself in a way to where you can focus in your part of the group that you want to succeed and move with. And you still stay friendly with those people. And what happens is when they start to see your progress and they start to see that, holy shit, man, Darren was like fucking party animal. This is the guy that used to do 10 shots in a night and, you know, drink 24 beers and do cartwheels down Fremont Street. And holy shit, all of a sudden now this guy owns a brokerage and he's succeeding and he's doing well. All of a sudden those people start to come back around and they start to ask you questions because you're still friends. And now all of a sudden they want to do what you're doing, right? And so you start to create that following. So anybody got a question? I don't see any questions popped up, so I'm going to just keep going. So, you know, through the years, the proximity of power, all of those things I think are really great. I think it's really important. I think educating yourself, reading, making sure you're reading the books that apply to the industry that you're in. I also like to read books that are in other industries because I always like to see what people have done in other industries when they're in similar situations, right? If something is, you know, if a market has crashed in a certain segment or certain industry, I like to read those books and learn from the people in those industries to find out what they did and how they overcame that and see how I can apply that to what I'm doing today in my business with real estate. And then, you know, all of this leads to one thing. I think that it comes back to, and I don't know why this popped in my head, but it comes back to the customer experience. And how you treat your customers. Because number one, how do you treat yourself, right? If you respect yourself, you take good care of yourself, you're working out, you feel really good all the time, you're going to treat other people that way. And you're going to treat, and it's going to give your clients a better experience. And you're going to treat them so much better, in my opinion, because you're not going to have those ups and downs. I've seen those realtors, I've seen those business people that they, you know, they're really good on a Monday night, they go out and they drink themselves blind. Tuesday, they don't want to deal with shit. And that's where I was at. I went for many years where I would kick ass on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday night I'd go out and party my brains out. And Friday a problem would pop up, and I'm like, "Fuck this, dude! I don't want to deal with it because I'm hungover and I can't handle it." And it delivered a poor experience to my clients, in my opinion, because of what I was doing. And so all of this that I'm talking about today really leads into why I've been inspired to launch my Real Fit group coaching program, because I know that it feels good. And I share this with people all the time. I'm like, I understand what Ivan and Florence used to tell me about how and why they were so excited to help us, because now as I've had an opportunity to succeed and do well financially in life, it feels so good to help someone else. It feels so good to sit with that person who's just starting out or who's struggling in their second year and they're like ready to quit, and you help walk them through what they need to be doing. And then next thing you know, they come to you 2 weeks later and they're like, Darren, I just got my first $1 million deal. I just closed my first, $3 million listing. Like, that's the type of stuff now that, quite honestly, like, I can close a large listing. I closed one a few weeks ago that was $6.5 million. And yeah, it's nice. I'm not going to lie. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. But it's not the same excitement that I used to get. It's not the same excitement that I used to get as a starting salesperson when I started in sales when I was 18 years old, to go out and hunt and find that business. And that was my accomplishment back then. Now it's changed. Now it's become where I really love helping the people that are in the place where I was 15 years ago, and help giving them that guidance so that they can grow. And there's nothing greater than seeing the excitement on their face when they get their first big check or when they close that big deal. And so that's what has inspired me now, that, as I started to, I've always kept my hand in the fitness world. I still have a consulting company where I consult for supplement companies and stuff like that and help them develop brands, which completely seems completely opposite of the real estate industry. But how I apply that is that I've actually used some of those things now in real estate that I learned in the fitness industry. But I couldn't pull myself away from the fitness industry. And so I always kept my wife's really into fitness as well. She owned a gym. She competed in jujitsu and kickboxing. And so we've always been like, God, like her and I, we both go back and forth like, oh, I want to be in fitness and I want to be in real estate. And we're doing both of these things. And so it was really cool as this idea came together for Real Fit of like, wow, I finally got a way of how I can like integrate the two so that it's the best of both worlds. It's what I love doing. It's what I love the fitness industry. I love being around people who work out. I love the mindset of the people who work out. And that's really what I enjoy about being around fitness people. And then of course I love real estate. Like, there's days I haven't loved real estate. I'm not going to lie. There's definitely days I've hated it and thought, what the fuck am I doing? But at the end of the day, I do love it because I love helping the clients. And just like I love seeing an agent succeed, there's nothing better when a client is just passionate about a home that they want so badly, and you help win that deal and you get that deal for them. And now you get them into the home that they love. Like, that to me is what drives me now to do really well. And so that's where Real Fit program came together, because I'm like, shit, man, I think I can take what I've learned in bodybuilding and what I've learned in the fitness industry over the years. I can take some of what I learned in partying, just kidding. But I can take now what I've learned in real estate over the past 15 years. I can integrate these two together, and I can really create a great program for real estate agents or lenders or whoever's in the real estate industry, and show them what I did to start my business in 2008 and grow that business over the last 15 years to where I'm at now. To where 3 years ago, I started my own team. My first year was $19 million. Last year, we finished at just under $76 million. And again, I used the same mindset and principles that I used in fitness, and I've applied it to my business, and it's what's helped my business grow. Most companies, most offices, most teams retracted in their sales this year in 2022, especially after everything slowed down. I told my team we would never accept the market. We won't accept it, because there's two types of salespeople out there. There's salespeople and there's order takers. Order takers, they lie and they wait for the business to come to them. And when we hit winter and the season dries up and there's no food available, they die. And salespeople, it doesn't matter what a market is, true salespeople will find an opportunity in any market. And that's where I came in with my team. I said, guys, we are not going to put our heads in the sand. We're not going to, talk about the news and talk about how bad things are and that, we're probably going to not do that well this year. I'm like, get over that fucking chicken shit, because we are professionals. We can't have that mindset when we're working with our clients, right? We've got to be out there. We've got to be primed and ready to go. And I'll be honest with you, that's when I really kicked in my fitness program and really ramped things up, because I'm like, dude, I got to train for winter. I got to get ready for this. I got to be in the best shape of my life. I got to be physically, mentally, everything. I got to be prepared. And so that's why I'm really excited now with the Real Fit program that we're launching, is that it's going to give me an opportunity to be able to help agents, let them know how I did it from 2008 and up and what I've learned. And I got to learn from the best in the business for 10 years. And then what I did to grow my business during a retracting market. And now we're on pace to hit my goal for this year, which is $150 million. And we will hit it. And now with my brokerage, we're going to grow that as well. And so that's really what I want to teach agents through this. And then at the same time, take those fitness principles, bring it in there, help the agents get on a good, healthy plan, because most agents, as we know, they don't eat breakfast. Most of the time they skip lunch. They drink a lot. They sometimes smoke. They're going to bed late. They're always under a ton of stress. And so there's nothing better that a real estate agent can do for themselves, or a lender, or anybody who works in this industry, than to get themselves on a good structured fitness program to where every day they're going to feel really good. And it's going to help them overcome those difficulties in the market. So anyway, guys, did a lot of talking tonight, a lot of caffeine this afternoon. I've been up since 3 this morning. I woke up at 3:20 actually. And I have not taken a nap. But I feel pretty damn good. So anyway, just wanted to thank you guys. This is the first episode of our Real Fit program. As I mentioned to you, we are going to be bringing in people in the fitness industry, people in the real estate industry, how that ties in, and how people have overcome adversity and used fitness as an essential part of their success in their life. And so I just want to thank you guys again for joining me. Make sure you tune in next week, Thursday evening. We're going to be doing it at night now. It'll be 6 o'clock. We're going to be live on YouTube, and we will be live on the Facebook group as well. And if you have any interest in joining Real Fit, or you want to learn about our webinar that's going to be coming up on April 8th, it's going to be, I'm moving the time. So I screwed up a little bit on the time a couple of weeks ago, and I've been telling everybody 10 o'clock. It's going to be 9 o'clock. So I hope you're paying attention, because we are going to move the time. It's going to be 9 a.m., from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's going to be 30 minutes of me just kind of giving an outline of the things that I have used in my business life to succeed and get to where I'm at today. Because let me remind you guys too, like I was not a stellar student. I was not the smartest person in school. And I did not come from a rich family. And so, meaning financially, luckily I had parents, a dad who's very driven. He was a Marine, does not take no for an answer. And you cannot tell him that he can't do something, because he said he will figure it out. So learning those things, I'm going to share everything that I've used, the mindset techniques that I've used, and all those different things in this webinar. And so hopefully you guys will join me. If you're interested, please either leave a message on YouTube. You can DM me through Instagram, or feel free to text me. Text me at 702-485-7755. That's my personal cell number. You can text me there. I will send you a link, but we'll get you signed up, and you can join us on April the 8th at 9 a.m. For the 1-hour webinar. And like I said, the first 30 minutes will be me giving an outline and kind of what I've done in life. And then I'm going to open it up to questions from the people, everyone who's attending. And hopefully I can answer a lot of those questions in that short period of time. And then, that'll be great, guys. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing some of you soon in person or in Zoom. We'll go from there. But I'll see you guys next week. We'll be here, and we will have a guest next week as well that we will be announcing on Monday. And talk to you guys soon. Have a great night.